Okay, Liz, we can get started.
Thank you. My name is Liz Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm going to read the preamble for you this morning, this March 13th, 2023. In compliance with notification requirements of the city's open meeting law in section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have had the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raised hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note that call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. All requests to speak on a particular matter have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Thank you. Ms. Brown will be absent this morning. Ms. Britt,
Here.
Ms. Vate,
I'm present.
Ms. Roca,
Present.
Ms. Holzer.
Present.
We have a quorum with 4 members, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Just to let everyone know, with 4 members, if the vote is split, your case will go nowhere. So once your case is called, you're allowed to ask for a postponement. Okay, go ahead.
So, Madam Chair, on that note, we did send out, I did speak to 2 applicants on Friday. The first one is calendar number 23-030 regarding the appeal of Chuck Hoven, Eric Ambro, and Laura Siraki. They have at this time requested to postpone to another date so that there could be 5 members present. We believe that we can get them on the March 27th. That's just for a quick turnaround so we don't hold this pending for too long. If that is all right with the board members?
Yeah, I guess. Okay, board members, without objection?
Without objection.
Without objection. Without objection.
And then, Madam Chair, we do have one more that has requested a postponement. It's calendar number 22-219 regarding FEB Inc. appealing the decision of the Director of the Office of Equal Opportunity. As with the first one, I spoke with the applicants on Friday, and they are also wishing to postpone until we have 5 members present. I think we can get them on the April 3rd agenda, if that would be all right.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So those 2 cases will be postponed. No testimony will be taken on these. If you received a paper copy of these or of the public notice for these 2 cases, you'll receive a paper copy again. And if you have any questions, you can call our office. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, board, regarding 22-219, without objection with that postponement.
Yeah, that's
Without objection.
All right, thank you. Okay, next case.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, first case, really. Yeah.
Sounds good. Good morning, everyone. So our first case is calendar number 23-031. This is at 3015 Chatham Avenue. M&M Property Group LLC owner proposes to convert the second floor of a 2-story frame garage to a single-family residence with attached garage in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland codified ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are two. And with Ms. Brown out, who should I hand it over to for the oath?
We'll have Miss Faith do it. She
I'll
knows
do
that
it.
very well. Yes.
I just had to grab something really quick. Okay. For calendar number 23-042, for all those wishing to make testimony on this case, if you'll raise your right hand, I'm
We're
going
on-
to read the oath.
We're on 031, Miss Faith.
Oh, so sorry.
No problem.
Ahead of myself here. One sec. All right. For calendar number 031, for all those wishing to make testimony on this case, I'll ask you to raise your right hand. I'm going to read the oath. Your response will be, I do, state your name and your address, one person at a time. I do swear or affirm that the testimony I am about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do. Paul Began, Began Architectural Design.
People,
I do. Michael Clifford, M&M Property Group.
I do. Nate Law, Ohio City Inc., 3308 Lorraine Avenue.
all right, is that everyone? Great. Madam Chair, back to you.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. We do have, I think the most pertinent information is that we do have a variance on file in calendar 21-020. A variance was granted to erect a new garage with storage above. There were no conditions placed on this variance. This may sound familiar. It was applied for again last year, but it was withdrawn, so there was no action taken on that. I think that's all that I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the rear yard requirement of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, my name's Bruce Hedderson at 2135 West 30th Street. I didn't know how to operate my microphone, but here I am. I'd like to address the board.
You want to testify for this case?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead, Miss Faith.
Okay. Mr. Henderson, I'll swear you in. I'm going to read the oath. You'll raise your right hand. When I conclude the oath, you'll reply with your with I do, your name and your address. Okay? So raise your right hand. I do swear or affirm that the testimony I'm about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Your name and your address, sir.
Yes, Bruce Hedderson, 2135 West 30th Street.
Great, thank you. All right. Again, back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Began, are you going to be the spokesperson?
Yes, we also have the owner, Mike Clifford, as well. So this, as was previously stated, this is a garage that received a variance to construct originally with storage above it. The current owner would like to finish out the second floor space for some additional living space in there. This is a two-family district. So that is allowed or permitted in this because the single-family home and this garage are there. Again, the garage is already constructed. The space is already constructed. Really, the intent for the application for this one is to finish off the space for additional living space above the garage.
Okay, and will this space be rented out or is it to be used by the family?
Yeah, this is an investment property for rental.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
I'm sorry, it's Mike Clifford, the owner, M&M Property Group.
Okay,
Yeah, my intention is to rent it out as an investment.
okay. Mr. Lowell from Ohio City?
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. If you'll recall, this property was seen a few months ago, Board of Zoning Appeals, and the issue was raised that this was being rented illegally as an Airbnb. While we have no problem with an additional rental unit on the rear of the house, we would like the applicant to commit to making this a long-term rental as opposed to an expensive overnight stay, which it currently is listed for on a few different property websites. I think that the legal standard 1 and 3 are in play here, as a ungranted hospitality use in a two-family zoning district would be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. Thank you.
Thank you. So is that correct, Mr. Clifford? You are using this as you will be using this as a short-term rental?
So I just want to finish it and use it however the city will allow me to. I've, if the law states that I can only have it as a long-term or mid-term rental, then I'm okay with that. I did meet with Carrie McCormick a few weeks ago, and we're working on putting together some legislation to allow or to regulate short-term rentals and within the city. So I will comply with whatever is allowed or what is not allowed. I want to blend in with the community and I've been going to the block club meetings to meet the neighbors. I've talked to all the direct neighbors or most of the direct neighbors. Yeah, so like I'm willing to do whatever is allowed here. I just want to finish. I want to maximize my investment here. Like the plan was for me to finish this space for living or even resell at some point, like to have both families there or two separate residences.
Okay, Mr. Henderson?
Yes, this was originally presented to the community as a 3-car garage and loft space. The process in which we find ourselves now is that in some way the development seems to have created a situation in the neighborhood where we feel that we've been had, in that once it was proposed as a garage, is now being proposed as well, I'm not sure what it is. It doesn't, the description that is on the notice in front of the building is an apartment. And now at the previous hearing, it was to build a single family residence, and that was kind of rejected. Originally, I didn't approve or disapprove of this development because I thought it should have been referred to perhaps the Cleveland Restoration Society or even the Landmarks Commission, even though it's not in a landmarks district, to give some consideration to building a structure, whether it was a garage or anything that was in keeping with the structure in front. In other words, make it an ensemble. So we were presented with the idea of a garage and loft, and we supported that. And then we were asked to support a construction of a single family residence on a building that had already existed or had been built. So it technically wasn't to build, it was technically it should have been written up for the board to consider as a conversion, which I understand now is being presented as a conversion. At least the intro to this ordinance was to convert. So I guess what I'm asking is that this is a development that seems to be trying to figure out what it wants to be. And what it wants to be, as clearly suggested by the owners, the current owners, what it wants to be is a short-term rental. And that is something that this neighborhood has already had seen 6 or 7 long or short-term rentals within a 1 square block area. And that's a little bit more than I think that we should be accepting in any particular area. So something has to be done, I think, about that issue. But is that an issue that the zoning board needs to deal with, or is that something that another department of government should be dealing with? And particularly the licensing of short-term rentals and the follow-up to ensure that they follow the rules. And one of those rules is to be owner occupied. And as I understand it, this is not an owner occupied development. So I would encourage again for the city to get a clear understanding of what the owners want to do. Because every time I look at this thing, it seems to be very confusing. It wants to be an apartment now, or it wants to be a conversion. Does it want to be a carriage house? And I think that the neighborhood feels that it's been had because it was not presented correctly in the first place. If it had been presented as it looks now, it is a duck, it smells like a duck or swims like a duck, it's a duck. That was never, I don't think in my mind, ever intended to ultimately be a simple 3-car garage and a storage. It was designed to be a home. And it is a home, but unfortunately, it's not a home that would work very well with the existing structure on the property. So I think that we've really been kind of going around and round about what it is that's actually happened here. And I think if we don't figure out what has actually happened here, we're never going to get a handle on what's going on in neighborhoods, and particularly neighborhoods that were the conservation and the restoration of these neighborhoods was an initiative by its residents. And I appreciate the fact that everyone is coming back to the neighborhood and asking them what they want. But somewhere down the line, they're not listening. City plan should have had a better handle on just what it was that the neighborhood was being asked to approve in the first instance, and it wasn't. It was, I think, as I said earlier, we feel like we've been had. I think something has to be done about that. Now, I don't think the question of
Okay,
short-term rental.
Okay, Mr. Henderson.
One
Mr.
last thing.
Henderson.
I don't think the issue of short-term rentals is an issue that should be discussed in front of the zoning board. I'm not sure that it's a zoning issue.
I agree with you, it's not.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
Okay, Mr. Clifford, do you want to clear up Mr. Henderson's questions about what your exact intentions are for this property?
Yeah, sure. Mr. Henderson, first of all, I'm sorry that you feel so that you've been had.
You're not talking to Mr. Henderson. You are just addressing the questions, but there's no back and
Okay.
forth between.
Gotcha. Okay. So I would just like to clarify that, I didn't purchase this. I purchased this after whatever the other proposal was, like whatever Scott Francis had proposed to you guys, I'm not aware of. I purchased it from Scott. My intentions were always to acquire this place as an investment property and to finish the garage. I didn't know the process as far as going to the block club to present what I'm doing, which is why when I presented a few months ago, I withdrew my application. I went to the block club meetings. I went to the neighbors to let them know who I am, what I'm about, that I'm an active landlord and concerned with what I'm presenting to the community and to everybody. So what my intentions are here is to maximize my investment as an investment property. I'm an investor in Cleveland. I have units in Ohio City, Tremont, Gordon Square, Detroit Shoreway, and my objective is to always to make the community a better place and provide housing, whether it's short-term, mid-term, or long-term. I do all of them, and to maximize my investment, to make the community and the neighborhoods better. So I want to work with the community to finish this particular residence and put somebody in there, whether it's short-term, mid-term, or long-term. I don't care. I'm willing to do whatever the city will allow me to do to maximize my investment and to put more people in Cleveland.
Okay, so my question is, when we approved the garage with storage on top at 21-020, that was a different owner.
Correct.
Okay, and then you bought that from that owner. and decided to turn that space above the garage into a living space.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Began, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just to clarify that point, we were also the architect for the previous owner when we obtained the initial variance to construct the garage in the first place. But yes, it was a different owner at that time.
Okay, Mr. Lowell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. I think the neighbors and Ohio City Inc. appreciate that the owner is willing to meet with the community and be a good steward of the community. However, I think he has said multiple times now he's willing to use it as a long-term rental. And the issue that we see is that it is being used as a short-term rental, which would be contrary to the two-family zoning. So I just ask that the board consider a stipulation that this be used as the applicant describes it will be used as a long-term rental. Thank you.
Harrison,
All right, thank you. City
can I
planning?
respond? Can I respond to what's being said here?
Mr. Henderson, yeah, if it's brief, we know what your
Okay,
position.
well, the present owner knew what he was buying. He was a contractor for the original owner. So he knew that he was buying a 3-car garage and a storage space. Now he's asking to change it. I think that's what he's asking, is to change the use of this structure. I don't know whether or not we can prevent that in any way. In other words, a homeowner can pretty much use his home for almost any purpose he wishes. What I continue to object to is the process in which this is happening. That we built a structure, a 3-car garage with storage, that is basically a house. And it should have been presented to the neighborhood at that time as a single-family residence built behind an existing structure, which is common in this neighborhood, but only for the most part on houses that face alleyways. So there's access. And what we have here is a massive use of concrete between the two homes in the front and a parking space behind. No consideration for landscape, no consideration for anything if this were presented and understood to be a single family home and all of the attendant issues that go with zoning for a single family home placed upon an existing house or a property on the rear of an existing house. None of those things were applied, and I don't see the zoning issue here with regard to conversion of this structure. I don't understand it at all. It's very confusing for homeowners here. And there are plenty of properties in this neighborhood that can do what happened here. And I don't know why we should be getting this turned around and converting this thing on a wish or a desire to maximize investment. And maximizing investment for short-term rentals is a hell of a lot different than the kinds of return you get for long-term rentals. It's very different. 25% of your take is acquired within the first.
Okay, Mr. Henderson, thank you.
Well, it's an issue that should be clearly
Mr.
understood.
Henderson, we got your position. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, city planning, Maurice.
Yeah, Maurice Rowland, City Planning. Yeah, just to go over the history here that was already stated, but I just want to reinforce it that, when this first came before the board, it was for the construction of a garage with a storage area on top. We get these all the time. I believe we even questioned the applicant at the time if this was truly going to be storage area. We were told it was. And we can only respond to what is put on the application legally. We cannot, the owner has stated when we approved this initially that it was a garage with a storage area above. We approved it as such. There were nobody in the community that came out to oppose it at that time because, again, we all thought it was going to be a garage with the storage area on top. And that also is the reason why we're back here for a variance, because if it was a garage with storage area, there would be no rear yard requirement. It would just need to be 18 inches off the rear property line. So that is why we're here today, because now that we're adding the residence to the top of the garage, it kicks in a different variance for the rear yard But of course, as you know, it is an existing condition now because it was built under different pretenses. I will also say we do have a very strict short-term rental legislation that's currently in the code. It's chapter 337.251, and it's called limited lodging. And again, this was not put on the application. I'm just reading this for informational purposes. So we really can't rule on whether the applicant is running this as a short-term rental because it was not put on the application, and that's not what we're here to respond to today. But I can say that under Cleveland's law for limited lodging, it requires the owner to live on the property and that the property can only be used for 91 days out of the calendar year for rental. So we do have rather strict regulations currently in place. We will be, and I believe there is an effort right now to look at changing those rules. So I just wanted to summarize everything that's going on here. We did not know that this was being constructed as a accessory dwelling unit. And of course, this is a two-family district, so that is permitted by right anyway. So I think the biggest contention here is the short-term rental situation on the second floor. I don't think anybody would object to an accessory dwelling unit in the back as a long-term rental. However, they're not asking for approval of that. And I think Rick Riccardi from the Building and Housing Department can tell us that I don't think we've ever approved something under that section of the code, and they generally use that section of the code for enforcement as opposed to using it as a use variance. Summarizing all of that, I would say that we would recommend approval of the rear yard variance. It's something that we do on a regular basis here. And we would recommend approval on that.
Thank you, Maurice. Board, any questions or comments?
Question probably for Ms. Kukla. Have we had any communication from the council? Yes.
Sorry, yes, I believe we received one this morning. And I'm sorry, I don't have that ready for you. Let me go to my email. I believe that he stated that he is in agreement with the Development Corporation. Is that right, Mr. Law?
I'm not familiar with this letter, so I can't say.
That's a different property address.
Well,
I'm sorry. I
31st
see.
Street, Liz.
West 31st is there. Never mind. Disregard. They're pining on the Chatham Avenue property.
Okay. So the email states that thanks for the great summary. This is an email to Nate Lull that was forwarded to me from the council person. He's responding, says, thanks for the great summary. It's very helpful. I support all the positions OCI is taking. Ms. Kukla, please note my full support for the positions that Ohio City Inc. is taking. And I don't know if I need to read the summary that Nate Lull typed up in this email. I think he's stated everything for the record. If you'd like, I can read it.
No, I think we have Mr. Lowell here, so we don't need to read his own email back to him. We have their position.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I believe the councilman had many opinions about this last time we heard it. Is that in the record as well?
So,
Many
Madam
opinions
Chair-
you mean from the 21-2020 case?
Right.
I don't know if
Madam
those can
Chair-
apply to a new case though. So.
Right. This is Liz Kukla. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. What I'll do is I can reference that there was a previous case and that no decision was made, but it is not our practice to bring over those comments from the file.
Right.
Since it's a new case and there was no action on the previous case.
Right. Okay, any other questions, board?
Madam Chair, my only question is to Mr. Rulins. When the zoning, and maybe Mr. Riccardi, when the zoning, I just want to clarify, when the zoning review was done by the city does not, because the Airbnb code is an enforcement section of the codified ordinances, that was not considered in the city zoning review. Is that correct, Maurice? I just want to clarify.
You know what? That would be a Mr. Riccardi question because we don't do the zoning reviews and planning. That comes from building and housing.
That is correct. There are regulations for use, but no one has ever asked for a use permit for that use. But Mr. Rulins did correctly cite the regulations, which are pretty strict.
So, Mr. Riccardi, just to follow up to that, if a use variance was requested, well, should a use variance have been requested if the facts were provided to us in full?
Yes. Yes, if they wanted to use this for short-term rentals for limited lodging, as described in the code, that should have been included in the narrative. And as such, regardless of what, if the Board of Zoning Appeals grants this variance, they do not have the right to vary from those regulations.
So if we approve the variances that are requested today, do they have to apply for a use variance given that we know what we know about the facts?
Yes, they would.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, board?
My question is to Ms. Roca, is there anything within that she wants to make as a condition for the motion?
Oh, that is a great question.
Oh, yeah, I think we just heard we can't though. We
Right.
can't enforce that.
No, I
so-
think that the applicant needs to reapply, but I don't know that we can make that as a condition. But I think it's a code enforcement issue, so the folks
Right.
from city planning on the call need to move forward on enforcement.
Great. Okay. I wanted you to make that comment. Thank you. All right, Madam Chair, with all that
Oh,
being
Madam-
said.
Madam Chair, can I just make one more comment?
No, we're moving to
Okay.
a motion now. Oh, was that Maurice?
Yes,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
Maurice.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out to the applicant that, at this point, if you are turned down, it would be that you would be turned down to use this as an accessory dwelling unit. And so you would be in perpetuity, never able to use this unless, because again, this would go to Mary Cornely, our attorney, because if you came back and tried to get it approved as a long-term rental or as an accessory dwelling unit, it would have been denied. And I think res judicata would then come into play where you would not be able to, unless the facts significantly change, to get a permit. Am I correct in that, Mary?
I suppose that would be the case. But since we're all we're looking at here is the rear yard for the,
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I
We're
just
getting
wanted,
off on-
I just wanted to
Yeah, we're
point
getting off
that
on a
out
tangent here. Yeah.
to the applicant. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting off on a tangent here. We need to stick
Sorry,
to what's
sorry for the
before us
interruption.
today. Oh, no problem.
Okay. So, Mr. Clifford, you've been before us for a few times now. And so I'm assuming you do not want to return to us again. You've heard statements from various members of the city departments on the situation. And so, and also the CDC and a statement from the councilman supporting the CDC. So, but we will hope that you make any further decisions accordingly. what is before us today are your setback issues. And the two sections on our agenda, number 1 and number 2, with regard to the rear yard and the square footage issues. So with everything that's been said and before us today, all the statements being made, we're looking at those two variance issues. So with that being said, Madam Chair, I move that we go ahead and approve the variances for calendar number 23-031.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Ms. Holzer with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Faith,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar number 23-031 is granted. It'll be ratified next Monday when we meet again, and we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, sorry, Maurice Rollins again. Sorry to interrupt. Just for clarification, on the agenda, I only have one variance listed. Is that incorrect? Because the approval said 2.
That's a Madam Chair to Mr. Rollins. That is the old notice that has been corrected. That second code section was left off of the original and was added after there was an update. Proper notice went out before this hearing.
Okay. So what we have on screen right now is incorrect.
Well, 1 is correct. The you don't have the second one on
Just
there.
missing the second one. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to verify that. Okay.
Great. Thanks for that clarification.
And again, it's been posted in the public record and on our website.
Okay.
All right, next case.
Our next case is calendar number 23-037. This is at 3200 Monroe Avenue. Matthew Kirk, owner, proposes to erect a 2-story frame attached garage with bedroom on second floor in a B12 family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Faith for the oath.
Thank you, Ms. Holzer. For all those wishing to make testimony for calendar number 23-037, I'm going to ask you now to raise your right hand. I'm going to read the oath. Your response will be, I do. State your name and your address, one person at a time. All right, here we go. I do swear or affirm that the testimony I'm about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Do we have someone for this case?
I, Matthew Kirk, 3200 Monroe Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. Is there anyone else? All right, Madam Chair, hearing no one else, we'll move on to you.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our most recent history in our cell system, we found that in 2011, a permit was issued to demolish a 2-dwelling unit to correct violations. And then there is one variance case for this address. It's in 2015, calendar number 15-166. A variance was granted to erect a single-family house. There was one condition placed on this. The design review committee asked that the appellant revise the plans to show that the garage would be set back a total distance of 15 feet, or to allow for 15 feet in the front of the garage so that a car could be placed. And that is it. The revised final site plan was submitted to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the attached garage and rear yard requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kirk.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for your time today. So we are asking for two variances on this. Currently, well, first off, the overview of the plan is demolition of the current single car garage with attic space over it, and then rebuilding garage with 2 floors of living space above it. We would currently, as it is, the garage is a very small, very tight fit. And as the garage exists, we have 3 feet from the rear property line, abutting the neighbors on 32nd, and 5 feet to the north with our neighbor on, sorry, it's 3 feet to the neighbors on Monroe, 5 feet to our neighbors on 32nd. We would like to make better use of the garage space to actually fit a car in there. Currently, we park mostly on the pad or on the street, usually on the Monroe side. With the additional 2 feet to the north, it's more space for the car. And same with pushing the garage 2 feet closer to the street. We would be able to actually fit just a Subaru Forester in there all of the time without having issues. The living space, again, that 2 feet each way gives us a substantial increase in living space. The plan is to change the attic to kind of a 3-season outdoor patio with a lofted bedroom above it. And the idea is that this would become our forever house. We're not looking to rent the space out. We merely just want some space that we can have for ourselves on that 2nd floor and a 3rd bedroom.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
City planning.
Yes, Madam Chair, just, let me get back to. So I guess to the applicant, and this is regarding what happened last time, that the board requested that you maintain at least, was it 15 feet of clear space for the driveway? And so now you're reducing that by, I believe, 1 or 2 feet. So you'll have a clear space of, is it 14 feet?
Correct.
Yeah, 14 feet. And you're still going to be using that as a parking pad, is what you're saying?
No, sir. We would not park there. We understand the importance of keeping the sidewalk clear.
Okay, great. That was the thing I was gonna, that I wasn't aware of that fact from the previous case when we initially reviewed this. So, Madam Chair, we have a little bit of a interesting case here. As you can see, the house clearly faces West 32nd Street. However, because the address is 3200 Monroe, the city adjudicates it so that that is the front of the house and actually Monroe is the side of the house. So that is another reason why we're coming up with on the what is now written up as the rear yard is really more like a side yard.
Side yard, yep. Yep.
So that's one of the reasons that I would tend to agree with this variance. And the other one is that it's actually, from a rear yard perspective, it's actually better to be on the side that they're proposing because the space next to them is a driveway. So if there needed to be fire department, God forbid there should ever be a fire on the 2nd floor, the fire department would have very easy access to fighting the fire from the side there. So that would be a positive. So with that in mind, we would recommend approval.
Great, thanks, Maurice. Okay, board, any questions?
Just wondering what the dimensions are of the current garage and what it's going to. I can't read it off the plan, Maurice.
Let me zoom in if I can for you.
That current garage looks kind of small. I understand
Yeah.
why they want to expand that a little bit.
So the applicant could probably answer that question better than myself, but I believe they're expanding it 2 feet to the north. Is that what the gentleman said?
2 feet in each direction, he said. So I'm
Right.
just,
So it would have been 20 feet deep, it looks like, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
It's about 20 by 16 currently.
okay.
So that is a small garage.
Very tight, very tight.
Especially
Yeah.
with.
And what's your the side of the garage is going to abut the neighbor's driveway, but what is your finishing material?
It will be the currently we have listed our current siding obviously, we received, some adjudication matters when we first put the plans into building and housing, and we would meet all the requirements for the increased fire code.
Okay.
The better drywall, the better plywood on that side.
Okay, great, great. That's always my sticking point. All right, Madam Chair, hearing no other questions.
Madam Chair?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I do have a question. This is Liz. The
I
site
yield
plan that
to
we're
Ms.
looking
Hoopa.
at here, sorry. Thank you. So the site plan that we're looking at here says that the setback would be 13 feet. Is that an error, or is the applicant actually proposing 13 feet instead of 14 that was advertised?
I'm sorry, that's an error. It should be 14.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch.
Is that the 14 on Monroe or 32nd? I'm sorry.
That's on 32nd. That would be the length of the concrete
The
driveway to
concrete
the
pad.
sidewalk.
Oh, thank you.
So you were at 15 feet and you're going to 14, right?
Currently, I believe is actually, so we were not involved with the first variance. Currently, it's actually 16, and we're
Okay.
proposing 14.
All right, so you're going to 14. Okay, that's fine. Still a distance for a vehicle should you need to put one there. So that's all right. Anyway, Madam Chair, moving forward with where I left off, hearing no other questions or comments, I move that we go ahead and approve the variance for calendar number 23-037.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Roca seconds.
Ms. Roca with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Vaith,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar number 23-37 has been granted to be ratified next week, and we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Good luck.
Looks like a nice project. All right.
Okay, next case.
Before we get started with this case, Board Member Roca is recused.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Roca.
Our next case is calendar number 23-038. This is at 1407 West 45th Street. Nashi Henin, owner, and Thomas Richard Sr. proposed to expand store to include outside patio with 20 seats for eating in a D2 local retail business district. The owner's appeal for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances is stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it off to Ms. Faith for the oath.
Thank you. For all those wishing to make testimony for calendar number 23-038, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. I'll read the oath. Your reply will be, I do. State your name and your address, one person at a time. Please raise your hand. I do swear or affirm that the testimony I'm about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I swear.
Sir, we didn't understand it. Could you repeat, please?
I swear.
Yeah, you need to give us your name and your address, sir.
Nashi Henin, 1407 West 45, for Thomas Beverly. 4423 Torrey Avenue, the front address.
Okay, Mr. Henning.
Nate Lall, Ohio City Inc., 3308 Lorraine Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Anyone else? All right, Madam Chair, to you.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was originally zoned semi-industry in 1929. In 2011, it was changed to local retail business. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1927, a permit was issued to erect a storage building. In 1937, a permit was issued to erect a garage. There are no variances on file. And in the more recent history, we found that in 2008, a permit was issued to demolish a single-family dwelling on site to correct violations. And that in 2011, 2017. The property was boarded up. There were standard size windows and doors that were boarded. And then in 2018, a permit was applied for and the status says approved to erect a new 678 square foot masonry building addition to Thomas Food Market. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the parking requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hendon, tell us what you'd like to do.
The complaint now about the parking lot. So if I knock down the seats, like now I apply for 20 seats. If I go down, like make 10 seats or 5 seats, whatever will be approved for the parking lot.
I'm sorry, tell us about the patio. What do you want to do with the patio?
We cooking food outside in the store. We're cooking food inside. So we need the people just take the food and sit down and eat inside behind in the patio.
Okay, so this expansion will be, so it will be for the general public to use?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and you need basically 5 more spaces because you're adding more seating in the patio area. Okay. Mr. Lowell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for some context, this is an existing patio, so I think this is a retroactive approval.
Oh, okay. Thank you for
We
clearing
are
it up.
not, absolutely, yeah, and we are not opposed to a variance here. We would just ask that it's tabled to allow for community review and to allow a discussion to happen with the community about this project. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll talk to my board, but I think what we might do here is to continue and hold ratification until community meeting has happened. We've done that before. But let's hear from city planning first.
Madam Chair, Maurice Rollins, City Planning. One thing I wanted to point out about the adjudication, and I believe Mr. Riccardi can confirm on this. It was missed that this is also in a pedestrian retail overlay district.
Oh, okay.
So that would reduce their parking requirement by, I believe, 1 space, so they would only need 4 spaces instead of 5. Mr. Riccardi, can you confirm that?
Yes, that is something that'll be looked at.
Okay.
To the applicant, are there any bike racks on the facility at your store?
No. No.
No. I think it would be a good idea if we're expanding the use, that we would request that the applicant add some bicycle parking if we're going to grant a variance for automobile parking.
Okay.
You're okay with adding some bike racks to your establishment?
Yes.
Okay.
And we would recommend approval. And we would also agree with Mr. Lowell's request to have it, or at least what Ms. Kukla said, to have it held for ratification until they have a public meeting on this.
That was Ms. Britt. That was not Ms. Kukla.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have all my videos very small.
I know. Well, I have the same problem. That's why I
Yeah,
didn't know
I
that
know.
was you that one time. And I was like, no. Okay. All right. So, all right, we got everything before us. Board, any questions?
I don't think so. I think we want to do this conditionally, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, all right. So hearing no other questions or comments, Madam Chair, will go forward with a motion.
Can I make a comment? Is that possible? Sorry, I had my hand raised.
Oh, sir.
Were you sworn
Madam
in?
Chair?
Sorry, this is my first time as I guess, a member of the community, very local to this project. I can
You need
definitely
to be
swear.
sworn in before you can
Okay.
make a statement.
Sure
All
thing.
All right,
Uh,
sir. I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand in reality, not just on the screen. And I'm going to read the oath. You'll reply, I do, state your name and your address. So I do swear or affirm that the testimony I'm about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yep, I do swear or affirm that the testimony I'm about to give is the true whole truth and nothing but the truth. Brandon states, you need my address?
Yes, please.
Yeah, 1418 West 45th Street.
Great. Okay. Madam Chair?
Okay, go ahead, Mr. States.
Hi. Yeah, just I received a letter in the mail talking about this addition to the facility across the street from my home. I guess one of the concerns as a member of the community living here is just that the lack of parking is definitely an issue. And so adding an addition to that will inherently draw more customers and more people, really not sure where they would actually stop their vehicles. So Wheat Court, there's no parking on that street at all. And then West 45th is a major access point to, I guess, Route 6. And so any parking on that street greatly impacts the flow of traffic through. And then also from the pictures that you saw, I'm just really concerned about the quality of the work. As you can see with the fence, as well as the, I guess, pergola or canopy thing, and then the wood, it's just very concerning that the quality of the work may not match what's going on in the revitalization of the neighborhood. So just wanted to voice some of those concerns as a member of the community.
All right, thank you, Mr. States. All right, Mr. Riccardi, this is something that Building and Housing can follow up on, correct? If this becomes an issue.
You're talking about the parking?
Not the parking, I'm sorry, I guess the neighbor's concerned about the quality of the patio. So as long as it meets city code, that's what will happen, correct?
It will be looked at for building for all the proper building codes. That's correct.
Correct. Okay, yeah.
It's no comment, I mean, of course, but that's right. All the provisions of the building code will be examined.
All right, thank you. That's what I needed for the record. Okay.
The appellants are having a discussion on their own.
Yeah, I
Madam
think
Chair.
someone needs to mute them. All right, so
And Madam Chair, this is Liz.
yes.
I'm not sure if we saw the tent on the application, and I don't remember seeing a permit for the tent in the history. Could Mr. Riccardi answer whether or not this would need a permit? I guess that'd be my first question. And also, should we have the applicant revise it to show the tent, or just have the applicant understand that the tent is not part of this project? Sorry to throw a monkey wrench in it, but it's, I do realize that didn't seem to be part of the review.
Tent is what was reviewed. The tent, the area of the tent being the patio. That's what required the variance. The new parking that's going to be required, that's going to be encompassed from the new seating in this white tent structure.
Okay, Madam Chair, I think that answers my question. I was a little confused by the site plan, but Rick Riccardi answered that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're ready for a motion now.
Okay. Awesome. So, Madam Chair, with regard to calendar number 23-038, We're going to motion for approval on this. We've had a lot of testimony, several questions answered, and we're going to place a condition on this that there be community meetings with the Ohio City CDC and the community members before ratification. So we'll need a confirmation of that meeting taking place probably by the CDC and confirmation by the property owner. So with that, I motion that we approve.
I'll just add a friendly amendment that the appellant also agreed to add bike racks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Ms. Holzer with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Roca?
She's recused.
I'm sorry, thank you. Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Bates?
Yes.
Ms. Britt? Calendar number 23-38 is granted conditionally. We will hold ratification until we receive that confirmation from Development Corporation that the community meeting has been held. Once we receive that, we will ratify the case and send the appellant a letter. Madam Chair, just regarding the bike racks, I just want to be clear for the record. Are you requesting or would you like to see an updated site plan, or am I just making it a condition on the resolution?
I think there should be an updated site plan. Are you in agreement, Madam Chair?
Well, you already answered.
Okay.
Okay, so we will hold ratification until we receive that as well. So to the applicant, we need to see an updated plan showing where you would place the bike racks and how many bike racks you're proposing. Thank you.
All right, next case.
Our next case is calendar number 23-039. This is at 2362 West 6th Street. Todd Berger, owner, proposes to construct an addition to an existing two-story single-family residence in a B12 family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are two. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Faith for the oath.
Madam Chair, just to state for the record, Board Member Roca is also recused from this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, calendar number 23-039. All those that wish to make comment or testimony on this case, I'm going to read the oath. I'll ask you to raise your right hand. At the conclusion, you will respond, I do, state your name and your address. I do swear or affirm that the testimony I'm about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do. Paul Began, Began Architectural Design, 15703 Madison Avenue.
Thank you. Is there anyone else making testimony, Mr. Began?
I do. Todd Berger. I'm at 2149 West 6th Street.
Thank you, Mr. Berger. Anyone else?
I do. Donna Gregonis with Tremont West Development Corporation, 2406 Professor Avenue.
Thank you. All right, Madam Chair, sounds like that's it. So back to you.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We didn't find very much on this address. The zoning has not changed. There were no records in our administration office other than gas opening installation. There are no variances on file and nothing of note in the more recent history. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the rear yard and driveway requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Okay, who will be the spokesperson?
I will, Paul Began, here from Began Architectural Design.
All right, go ahead.
Yes. So this is a single-family house on West 6th Street. West 6th is, for the most part, an alley street. Has smaller houses on it, much smaller lots. And the owner actually owns the adjacent parcels as well, too. The intent for the addition to this house is to put a garage onto it. The lot is not wide enough to accommodate its own driveway. Although as the owner owns the adjacent property, he is going to write up an access easement for access to the garage across his property. So on this site plan, that hatched area is the access easement area to access the new garage addition to this existing structure. If you want to go to the next one, we have some plans and some elevation just so you could see the context of what we're doing as far as the addition to the house. So you can see here, sorry about that. That's right. Thank you, Maurice. You can see here the addition for the garage to the back of the existing house. There will be some additional space built above the garage to add a second bedroom to this house. We can go to the next one. And again, just so you can kind of see the addition of the garage on the back and adding space above for that second bedroom there. We go to the next one.
Yep, that's all I have.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Probably best to the site plan or overall aerial or something of it. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, is that the end of your testimony?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Berger,
Yes, ma'am.
you have anything you want to add?
No, I do not.
All right, thank you. Ms. Gregonis.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Again, this is Donna Gregonis with Tremont West Development Corporation. I'm the Economic and Real Estate Development Director for the neighborhood. So I will say that this project has not performed its due diligence and gone through the community process. That is pretty standard in Tremont. You know, I know that the community, after speaking to the neighborhood, the neighbors and Economic Development Committee, that they're disappointed that this didn't follow the community process. I know a lot of people are familiar with Mr. Berger, and Mr. Began and I have a pretty good working relationship, and he did not let us know that he would be going to Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance. And this seems to be a trend, as this is the third property on West 6th in a month not to follow the community process. So, you know, we know the variances could be minor, but, you know, the easement to this home is very important, as it could create a condition that would create an issue in the future. And this is not an alleyway. I know it has been treated as such by many, but it is a street. And I know that the community would prefer that there not be so much concrete on the site. I know another project had proposed pavers, so maybe Mr. Berger and Began could consider that. But, you know, Paul and Mr. Berger, you both are very aware of the community process, and I know that the community is disappointed by that. So I would ask that you go to the community for this if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gregonis. Did either one of you want to respond to that before I move on?
Yeah, I could. This is Todd Berger. I could respond to it. So this is my first time going through this process before. I am not an investment type of person. This is going to be next to my home. So my fault for not going, you know, to the process itself. Wasn't really sure what the process was. But if it is merely just going to the block club to walk through these things, I'm happy to do that if that's a step that's need to be taken. Just in question about the easement, The purpose of that was to actually avoid large swaths of concrete. Because I'll be living next door, we thought it would make much more sense to have that existing house simply share the driveway that my family will be using, rather than put another driveway almost a foot next to the other one. So, and there is a need for a car garage here, as much as we all hate to be car dependent. This street, you can't park on this street. And it would make it very difficult for this to be a place for people to actually live without a car, unless they want to park in neighboring, blocks. And the only alternative would be to have a driveway with just cars parked on it. So we thought this was a better use of the space. But I'm happy to go through whatever process you guys think. I'm certainly not hiding anything here. So apologies for not going through the process. But again, this is my first time doing this. So apologies for not going through the exact block club. But I thought submitting them to the block club itself was sufficient.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Berger.
And I'll just add one last thing. I mean, just the variances we're seeking shouldn't be controversial. They're just because of the lot size. We're not doing anything out of the ordinary here.
All right,
but happy to do whatever's needed.
All right, thank you. City planning.
Maurice Rowland, City Planning. I guess one question that arises is, why are you not doing a lot consolidation or a different lot split on this project to the applicant?
You're asking, why don't I combine this with the rest of the land that I have?
Correct. Why are we looking at, the reason that we're here for one of the variances because we have two properties and you're putting the driveway access on a different property than the actual garage is located. If these were consolidated, then that one variance would go away.
Well, I think the issue with that is that if I was to combine this, I would be having a pretty large piece of property that, in the future, if I choose to sell it, it'd be more difficult. I'm been in Tremont for almost 15 years now, so I don't have any short-term views of leaving. But I think, if I was to ever sell a property, it'd be much difficult to sell not only my own home, but at a house that's attached to the property. So it seemed to make much more sense to keep this property separate, but that posed, of course, the question of what to do with the driveway. And believe me, I don't want any, large swaths of concrete. So we thought, instead of a driveway, let's do a very nice landscaped area, very lush green to kind of divide the two homes, but then simply having them an easement right away to use the driveway that I'll be using seems like a better use of the concrete rather than having it duplicative.
And if you don't mind, I will add to that too. We did go through several different design scenarios of adding some additional to this property, but then we ended up with two driveways right next to each other with 2 feet in between them. It made more sense to combine those driveways given the lot sizes that they were. And again, just reiterating what Mr. Berger said, we're going to have a nice 10-foot wide area to be landscaped now between the houses and one single driveway instead of two driveways next to each other, which we would have had to do if we were to combine and then resplit.
Thank you for all that. So just out of curiosity, looking at this aerial, so which house are you sharing the garage with and the extra?
So if you're looking at this, if there's so
the house with the addition is right here where my cursor is, correct?
Correct.
And then is it this house or this house?
The other one. It's this one. It has been demoed. If you kind of move towards West 7th Street, it's up here towards West 7th, towards the back. I wish I could use my cursor here, but if you see where it says West 7th Street, you see a car there. You'll see a house, with the darker roof in the middle. That has since been demolished. Right there. This one? Right there. Yeah, we're currently building our home for my family. We live down the street right now, and we're going to build a home there. And then our garage will be down here, and then it'll be have a shared driveway with that home right there.
Okay. All right. Well, that clears things up. So I guess I would recommend approval of this project, but I would put the stipulation that we would need to have the easement in place before the project is ratified, because I mean, it's integral to this property as well as the adjacent property. You know, I understand why he doesn't want to consolidate the parcels, so we really would need to have the easement.
Yep, I think we wanted to have this discussion first, and you know, I have spoken to the neighbor who is directly behind this and explained everything. She and I keep in close contact. Her name is Annette, and we've already spoke about this, and she said she has no issues.
Right, and I do appreciate the fact that you are trying to consolidate and reduce the number of driveways.
Yeah.
And use this other property for the garage for the other house. I appreciate all of that. Just to make a note that, you know, the rear yard, we would approve that variance. Is something that we approve all the time. As a matter of fact, we just did on a previous one today. And I guess the other thing about holding for ratification for the easement is it also allows the applicant time to go through the community process.
Correct.
All right, thanks, Maurice. All right, board, any questions? I don't hear any. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, sorry.
Oh.
I just had a quick question to Mr. Began and I dropped my pen. Excuse me.
That's okay.
So we're just going with solid concrete on this standard width driveway and with the parking pad. Is that right?
Well, this is Todd Berger, if I can comment on that, because Paul's not doing the architectural drawings on my home. So I think you're asking about the driveway that we intend to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's still under consideration. In being myself very concerned about stormwater runoff as well, I'm looking at a variety of different types of things. One of which is kind of a lattice type of concrete where there's grass in between. So I'm looking at a lot of permeable solutions that can also allow, you know, a hard surface for things like basketballs and things like that for my kids. So I'm trying to figure out a happy medium there, but I could assure you it's not going to be a swath of asphalt or just a hulking piece of concrete, because I don't like that vision either. And one of the things that we're trying to do with this home, as you mentioned before, correcting that this is not an alleyway, but rather a street, we're going to be doing quite a bit of landscaping along our current garage that you see there to make it look as if it's a home. In fact, we're even putting a door there to make it appear more welcoming. And so, you know, that whole thing is being considered in part of a landscaping project as well.
Great. Glad to hear that you're looking at permeable products, because I think that would, particularly in these dense neighborhoods, that is definitely a plus. So, and to Mr. Rulins, it sounded like you had two conditions, the easement and the community meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
All right, great. All right, Madam Chair, unless my colleagues have questions or comments, I'll move forward.
Go ahead.
All right. Calendar number 2023-039. I move that we go ahead and approve the variances. We have two conditions. One is that we have a copy of the executed easement document received before ratification, and also that there be a community meeting with, I'm sure Ms. Grigonis will help set that up, and we'll need just an email or a letter from the CDC and the owner when that's completed. So those are the two conditions. And with that, I move that we go ahead and approve the variances for calendar number 23-039.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Ms. Holzer with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Vaith,
Yes.
Ms. Britt. Calendar number 23-39 is granted. It'll be ratified when we receive those items that were made a condition. And once we receive those, we will send the appellant a letter after ratification. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next case.
Looks like our next and perhaps last case is calendar number 23-042. This is at 5909 Cable Avenue. ABA Enterprise Connect LLC owner proposes to expand existing children's boarding home for ages 10 to 17 in a B12 family residential district. The owner was granted a variance in calendar number 20-072. This was on September 21st, 2020, to establish a children's boarding home for a maximum of 6 children. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Faith for the oath.
Thank you, Ms. Holzer. For those that wish to make testimony on calendar number 23-042, I'm going to read the oath. I'll ask you to raise your right hand, and your reply will be I do, your name, and your address, please. I do solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do. Kudzama Timajani, 5909 Cable Avenue.
Timajani, can you spell your full name, please, for the recorder?
Yes, it is Kudzai. The last name is Matemachani.
Thank you.
I do. Chris Alvarado, Slavic Village Development, 5620 Broadway Avenue, 44127.
I believe that's everyone, Madam Chair, so back to you.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning of this property since 1929. We did find in our Records Administration Office that in 1909, a permit was issued to erect a 2-story dwelling addition, and in 1918, a permit was issued to erect a 1-story garage. The variance that was mentioned is calendar number 20-072, in which the applicant proposed to establish use as a children's boarding home for ages 10 to 17. Within the testimony, we found that one of the board members was concerned, Ms. Faith was concerned for the proposed number of children and thought that the 6 children might be more appropriate considering the sizes of the rooms. And the appellant at that time agreed to reduce the number to 6. And Madam Chair, I believe that's all that's relevant. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance and an area variance from the minimum distance requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. And who will be the spokesperson for this case?
Yes, Kudzama Timajani. We are asking to add another kid in the home just because we are, we work with the county a lot. There are a lot of kids that need a place to go and to live. And we are asking to add just an additional bed to add one other kiddo to the home. Either add a bunk bed or just add another bed to one of the rooms.
All right, so you want to increase from 6 to 7?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Alvarado?
We have no objections. They have been reaching out to their neighbors and have been able to the property as well as, making sure that any issues are taken care of in a reasonably quick fashion.
Great, thank you. Board, we heard this in September of 2020 and granted a variance for 6 kids. So she's here to add one more, and appreciate the fact that she actually came to us to do this instead of just doing it on her own. So are there any questions for the appellant?
Do we have a current floor plan in the presentation package?
You know what, Madam Chair, I do not have the current floor plan on here.
Okay.
Sorry. We had some issues with not being in the office for 2 days and I was not able to grab them.
Sure. Okay. All right. So I think since it was my concern about the space last time and we're looking to add one person, I do remember this case and I think we had kind of a discussion about where the kids were going to go. So we're looking to add one twin or one bunk bed to the situation. So I have no objections to that. So unless my colleagues have any other questions or comments, I'll move forward.
I would just, Madam Chair or Ms. Faith, how many bedrooms? I know we don't have a floor plan, but could we state for the record how many bedrooms are in the property?
Or, probably the appellant needs to answer that question.
Yes.
There a second floor and a first floor, as I
Yes.
recall.
So on the first floor, there's one bedroom, but it accommodates two, and then there's 4 rooms upstairs.
So are you looking to expand on the second floor or the first floor?
So we'll be adding another bed on one of the largest room upstairs.
Okay. All right.
Or a bunk bed. There's enough space for either or, but that would be the plan.
Yeah. Well, kids like bunk beds, so
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Madam, oops,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Did not mean
Go
to
ahead.
cut you off, Ms. Lee. I was just going to ask because I was not a part of the board when we heard this case originally. Just generally, so it sounds like there would be 7 children. How many adults or how many other folks are in the property?
We typically have at least 3 staff. I mean, the ratio with state is really 2, but we always have more staff, because obviously, kids go to school and they might have appointments. So I think we're staffed fairly well. And of course, this has been a growing process. I know in the beginning, I was like really bummed, like, oh, we wanted 10 kids, but I appreciate having 6 because it has been a good learning experience. Actually, I sit back and I'm like, 10, that would have been a lot. But now we are whipped in shape and we can manage, and we're super excited to even add. So I appreciate everybody on the board. Thank you.
I remember you being very enthusiastic when you first came before us. So
Yeah.
I'm glad things are working out. So
Thank you. And I'm, like I said, I'm glad that you all approved 6 because sometimes we like to take on more than we can manage, but it's been a growing process. And through it, skills have grown and we can manage. So I'm so excited, really, and appreciative. Thank you.
any other questions or comments from my colleagues?
Madam Chair, Ms. Kukla said she just sent me the floor plan, so if you want to hold on 1 second, I can bring it up if anybody wants to see it.
And while you're doing that, we didn't ask your opinion, Maurice, but I figure out in what direction you would be going, but I need to ask.
Yes, Madam Chair, I actually went out and actually met the applicant on the front porch when I was out planting the sign, as you see on the screen, and taking pictures. And I have to say, I was very impressed with where the property has come from a couple of years ago. I remember it being very much a derelict property. It's been painted. It looks very neat and clean. There were 2 very happy children on the front porch when I met the applicant. So I am very much in support of approving this, and for 1 additional child. And I will also agree with comments from other people that I was very pleased to see that the applicant came back and actually went through the proper way by appealing, applying for another bed or child. So yes, very much in support.
Thank you.
So that is the second floor plan.
Right. So So to the applicant, which bedroom are you planning to add to? The
It's
top
this
right?
bedroom. Yeah, top right.
Top right. Okay, great. Yeah, that's the, yeah, that's good. All right. All right, anything else, colleagues? All right, Madam Chair, we've heard testimony, and again, we thank the applicant for coming back to us, following all the processes. Glad that things are going well and you're growing with this. And so I move that we go ahead and approve the variance for calendar number 23-042.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Ms. Holzer with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Olzer,
Yes.
Ms. Vaith,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar number 23-42 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and then we will send the appellants a letter.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, board.
All right, good luck with everything.
Continued
Thank you.
success.
I appreciate everybody once again. Thank you.
All right, old business. 1 through 4 without objection.
Without objection.
Objection.
It was very nice to see. That's all we have to do on old business. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Adjournment at 11:01. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Yay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Maurice, I just have to say, I passed one of our signs on Triscuit, and I think it's actually the first time I've seen one in person. And I keep driving by it. I'm a sorority girl. I keep going, what's this Zeta Nu sign for? So that's just, I'm like, is there a kegger involved with this? I just had to share that. So